Hello everybody and welcome back to the next episode of the Yakuza Retrospective, where we'll be looking at Yakuza 4. Yakuza 4 was an ambitious game to say the least. Well, as ambitious as Yakuza could get at this point. Each game is very similar, but how good does it feel 11 years later? Well, join me as we explore the Yakuza Retrospective, Yakuza 4. I'm just going to come right out and say it, pull the band-aid off. I preferred Yakuza 3 to Yakuza 4. Okay, get your dislikes at the ready, I can take it. I'll explain why, don't worry. Also, this video won't contain story spoilers for Yakuza 4, at least until the end. I'll have a spoiler zone at the end, which I'll warn you about before that comes up. Since Yakuza 4 is split into 4 parts, I'm going to go through them all. So strap in and let's go. We start off with Akiyama. I think I struggle to pronounce all these characters' names and I feel really bad about it, but please bear with me. So we start off with Akiyama, and I had heard many Yakuza fans wax lyrical about this dude, so my expectations were high. But oh boy did he deliver. I had trouble figuring out his angle at first. Why does he own a loan company that doesn't charge interest? Why does he just want people to prove they deserve the money instead? He made me curious to try and figure out more about him. He also has the hostess minigame from Yakuza 3. The community seems to love these club minigames, but I just don't find them too appealing. I know, I'm sorry. I didn't mind the cabaret club in Yakuza 0 though. For whatever reason, Akiyama's section was the part of the game where I was having my most fun. The finer details of the story were still being hidden for me, and the mystery had me longing for answers. Then there's Sajima's section, which, in terms of introducing the character, was fantastic. We see different sides to Sajima that really make us empathise with him. He even runs into a character from Yakuza 3. Sajima's section also introduces us to one of the most annoying bosses in the series thus far, who appears time and time again through the game. He's like this game's Kuze, except infinitely more annoying. Exploring Kamurocho as Sajima is an absolute chore. The added verticality to Kamurocho is really cool. You can traverse the rooftops and the underground with Sajima. Well, you have to. I just wasn't incentivized to exploring his section because walking around the city was such a difficult experience for reasons I can't say. Tanimura's section was so boring until the final hour of it. First things first, is it just me that thinks he looks just like Yagami? The first time I saw him I was like, whoa, it's Yagami! Tanimura is a bit of an outlier when it comes to the story, as his relevance to the narrative isn't really clear until further on. It's not unusual for Yakuza's pacing to be all over the place, but Tanimura felt so unnecessary until his role in the broader scheme of things was explained, in which case, yeah, it all makes sense, not complaining. But yeah, the final hour or so of this section was brilliant. It made the rest of his section of the game worth it. Then we have Kiryu, the man himself, the Dragon of Dojima. And honestly, he disappointed me. Not him himself. This game felt a lot like a Yakuza spin-off. The other 3 characters all have very strong connections to the mystery in some way. No spoilers in this section, obviously, but Kiryu just doesn't. He just appears at the end and helps out because, well, just because that's what Kiryu does. I love Kiryu with all my heart, but he really didn't need to be in this game. He felt attached on at the end as fan service. I'll never complain about more Kiryu. I just wish he was incorporated better into the story, because he feels too much like a passenger. The new combat styles are a major improvement on Yakuza 3 though. Each character feels totally different from one another, but the one I wanted to focus on was Tanimura's. His combat style is totally dependent on defense and countering enemies rather than brute forcing it, which is a complete contrast from every other playable character in the series thus far. It could take a bit of getting used to, but I really liked it. For a game this ambitious from a storytelling perspective at least, there are no new areas in it. It's just Kamurocho and Okinawa. I've heard that 5 is a huge game, so I'm expecting either Sotenburi to come back or that we'll be given a whole new area. I'm not complaining about the areas we do have. I'll never grow tired of Kamurocho, and Okinawa's nice and peaceful. I just miss Sotenburi from 0 and Kiwami 2, damn it. Now it's time to talk about the story. No spoilers in this little bit that I'm going to say right now for the next like 20 seconds. I just wanted to get into some vague thoughts on the story because I'll be honest, I didn't like it. Yakuza stories are always somewhat ridiculous, but this one was just stupid. I was loving it at the start, I was living life as Akiyama, having a blast. You could tell there was a mystery afoot, but you don't know what it is. You want the answers, but the more answers you get, the less interesting they become. In my Yakuza 3 retrospective, I said this. Haruka has slowly developed into a slightly more important role as she gets older, and I envision that she will become even more important in the games to come. Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. She barely appears in the game at all. I assume she gets a bigger role in 5, but I said that about 4 as well, so who knows. That's pretty much all I can say now without spoiling it. So now it's time to enter the spoiler zone. If you don't want spoilers, then proceed to the time on screen now. You have been well and truly warned. So, one thing they fall far too heavily on is the rubber bullets. I mean, sure, it's possible, but something being possible doesn't mean that it isn't ridiculous. I find it a little too hard to believe that Saejima wouldn't have noticed he was shooting rubber bullets, but I could accept that as a plot twist. I could be fine with just that when it turns out Saejima didn't kill all these men. But the amount of times they fall back on, oops, rubber bullets lol, is just a joke, and quite frankly it's poor writing. I was laughing during serious cutscenes. That's an issue. Much like Kiryu, Daigo doesn't feel necessary at all. He just appears at the end of the game so that Kiryu has someone to fight with the other characters. The final boss as well, I mean, holy shit, who thought that this was a good idea? There have never been a boss battle in the history of video games where you had to fight 2 enemies at once and it's worked. I don't understand how video game developers haven't figured out that this is a bad idea. I mean, even From Software, the kings of boss battle, still get this wrong in every game. I'm ranting here about things that aren't Yakuza, so we're gonna get back into the swing of things. But yeah, it's the worst fight in the series so far for me, even worse than the boss fight from Kiwami. Makijima feels kind of pointless as well. We learn he used to be pals with Saejima back in the day, but just like Kiryu and Daigo, doesn't feel necessary. I really like what they did with Hamazaki though. His redemption arc is satisfying. Overall, I just didn't engage with this story at all. It bored me deeply. The more I learned, the less I cared, and I can't say I've felt that way about a Yakuza game before. Welcome back to those of you that didn't join us in the spoiler zone. Hope you're well and ready to join the rest of us for some closing thoughts. Yakuza 4 felt like it was trying to expand the cast a bit rather than furthering the Yakuza story. There isn't really much growth in Kiryu. The purpose of the game was clearly to introduce new characters for future games. I am excited to play Yakuza 5 though. Now that we've been introduced to Akiyama and Saejima, I can see a lot of potential for them. So yeah, looking forward to the future, but in terms of the now with Yakuza 4, this is definitely a weak spot for me. Feel free to stone me for this opinion, but I prefer Yakuza 3. Not in terms of gameplay, 4 blows 3 out of the water when it comes to combat. In that sense, it's far superior. But my main focus of expertise is the story, and in terms of the story, this one sucks. Yes, I will go as far as to say Yakuza 4 has a bad story. Something I haven't said about this series before, which is a shame. And that concludes the Yakuza 4 retrospective. If you enjoyed the video then please consider leaving a like, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to watch the other episodes of the Yakuza retrospective then please do it. They aren't all as negative as this one. I have loved every single game up to this point. But if you want to see more content from me, then make sure to subscribe and like the videos just like this one every single Friday. Have a nice day and goodbye.